All right, guys, let's be real. Email freebies and random website banners are not cutting it anymore. Growing your email list and your bank account as a small business owner is more competitive than ever. People are not handing over their email or their hard-earned cash for something that doesn't feel valuable to them. And that's why you need Badao. And you can get 25% off your subscription with the code Elizabeth. So if you haven't heard of it yet, Badao is the ultimate software for supercharging your email list building efforts and making sure your website visitors see the right message at the right time. Badao works with all the best email marketing platforms like Flowdesk, ActiveCampaign, and Kit, you name it. And it was acquired and rebranded by Showit about 6 months ago, and I have been obsessed ever since. And honestly, if it's from Showit, you know it's going to be amazing. So here's a few ways I've been using Badao in my business so you get the picture. So showing a pop-up for a freebie only on my blog posts that are geared towards designers, displaying a coupon code to visitors right as they're leaving my site, promoting sales with the targeted pop-up for people coming from specific websites, and one of my new favorites, a feature of adding social proof pop-ups in the corner of a browser to show recent and real-time purchases or email signups. Badao makes it ridiculously easy to connect with your audience in a way that feels both personal and strategic. And seriously, I've had my mind blown by all the features like targeting new visitors differently than returning ones or popping up an offer after someone's browsed a certain number of pages. So here's the best part. Badao is offering 25% off for a limited time with the code Elizabeth. So this is the best deal you will find. And I'm so excited to share it with you because I know this will transform your business sales like it has mine. Head to elizabethmccravey.com/Badao, that's BDOW, to snag this 25% off deal. Plus you'll find a free Badao template that I designed to help you get started. So again, save 25% with the code Elizabeth. And now let's dive into today's episode. In today's episode, we're talking about prioritizing our health and wellness as busy women who often have a business you're juggling and kids you're chasing around and also a marriage and faith life and friendships you're trying to maintain, right? There's a pressure and a struggle to do it all, and our health is often the loser in the equation. Today's guest is Shaela Daugherty, who is the host of the Simple Fitness Habits podcast, and she's a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who believes that every woman can build a healthy and fit lifestyle no matter what season of life they're in. So she'll introduce herself a little bit more in a minute, but we talk about why the busiest time of your life is actually the best time to prioritize your health, specific and simple ways you can focus on your own wellness that won't take up all your time or your mental energy. We talk about hitting protein goals, how you can add rhythms to your life for health and fitness as a busy mom, the scripture about your body being a temple, and Shaela kind of reframes some of that and so much more. It's really a jam-packed episode. And I love this interview. And when Shaela and I stopped recording, I literally told her this left me feeling so motivated and like I'm ready to get up and move and take care of myself. I literally left the interview and went and ate some protein and went on a walk, which is really nice. So I hope this episode leaves you feeling the same way. And I hope it's hitting at a time too. You know, often in January, we have like all these intense like New Year's goals that may have kind of fizzled out a little bit by February. So I hope this gives you a bit of maybe a restart you need as we kick off another month of the new year. So here's Shaela, and I hope you guys enjoy. Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, an online educator for entrepreneurs, website designer, wife, boy mom, and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want to dive deep into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a sustainable business that fits your unique lifestyle while standing out in a crowd, then you are in the right place. I created a multiple six-figure a year business in my early 20s, and now in my 30s, I'm still running that successful multiple six-figure a year business on just part-time hours now as a working mom. I'm here to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe that the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, website design, personal branding, mindset, time management as a busy parent, scalable and passive income, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast, Elizabeth. I'm married. And we have three beautiful children. Everett, Nash, Hadley, and Wells is our youngest, and they are all under 5. I homeschool my oldest. He's in kindergarten right now. And my husband is in full-time ministry. He is a student pastor. And so right before we got married, I was actually in full-time ministry as well. And when the Lord brought him into my life, we decided to get married. We both prayed through what this was going to look like because we were in competing ministries. He's student ministry. I was in children's ministry. And so we would never get to go to church together or be together on Wednesday nights or Sunday mornings or anything like that. And so we had to pray through it was the first 9 months of our marriage, what that was going to look like. I was still on staff at another church that was like an hour away from where he was on staff. And as we prayed through that, the Lord just called me out of vocational ministry to serve alongside him. And I was like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, this is what I went to school for. What am I going to do? And he just allowed me to pursue my passion in health and fitness. And so in 2017, I started getting certified in CrossFit, my personal trainer, a lot of different things. In 2018, I worked for actually a doula company doing prenatal and postpartum fitness with them. And then in 2019, I decided to launch my own health and fitness company because I knew we'd want to have kids one day and I wanted to be home with them. And so I launched that. And then as soon as I launched that, I was pregnant with my first. And so ever since I started working with women in my own business, it actually, when I was thinking about this the other day, they were all business owners. I would go in home, work one-on-one with them in their houses. They were moms that worked from home and wanted to get healthy and fit and were trying to figure out how to do that life. And so that's why I'm super excited to be here because I know a lot of us are struggling. We're either moms or we're business owners and we're juggling a lot between that, our family, our personal goals, and it's all can be so overwhelming, but there's purpose in it. And as women, we can thrive in our businesses and our bodies. And so I feel like probably most of your listeners have probably at some point prayed or said something like, I just need help with this in my business. Like, I just need results here. If the Lord would just align the stars or do X, Y, and Z, we could flourish more. But that's why I'm so excited to be here today, because I really believe the answer is that we don't need to be doing more in our businesses, but we need to be caring for our bodies with respect so that we can actually increase our capacity, joy, and energy to be able to do and serve and live out the purpose that we feel like we have in our lives.
I love that. I feel so motivated.
I hope you do.
Yes, and you guys, Shaela really is such a good person for us to hear from because you get the business owner life, you get the mom life, and I love how you started your business and have built this with children and figuring all that out and doing the health and fitness thing also with kids and with a business to manage and a marriage and all the other things you do as well. Okay, so let's get into all the stuff, all the ways we can avoid health burnout. So my first question I want to ask you, what are some signs that listeners could be in a health related burnout and that could be limiting us, whether it's in our personal lives limiting us or in our business, that the limit is actually a health related burnout?
Yeah. So I feel like it can sneak up on us. It's kind of slow, and one day we're just a little bit tired and we feel like, well, maybe I should take a nap today. Or one day we're working on our business stuff, doing the nap time hustle or whatever we want to call it. And it's just super hard to focus on our tasks. And we're like, did we have too much caffeine this morning? What is happening in our brains? Or maybe snapping at loved one, things like that. On the professional side, it can look like working harder, but not smarter. Feeling like you're spinning your wheels, or a term I have heard so much lately in the business world is throwing spaghetti on the wall, because many of us feel like that so often in our businesses, but we're never making progress. And so burnout isn't just limited to your business growth, but it really does impact your relationship and your ability to enjoy the life you're working so hard for. And so some very specific practical, physical examples, like I already mentioned, being tired, but chronic fatigue, trouble sleeping, you have a big deadline the next day and you're not sleeping, but then come to find out a month later, you're still not sleeping very well. Frequent illness with maybe you're catching from your kids, or it just feels like it's coming out of nowhere. Unexplained aches and pains. Those are some physical symptoms. Mental symptoms, brain fog, difficulty focusing, irritability, lack of motivation for your work, or even just caring for your body. And then professionally, some of this can look like procrastination, overscheduling, or, being in that hamster wheel cycle of doing all the things and feeling like, well, if I can just get all of these things done like right now, I'll be fine for my business. And then what usually happens, we get like 70% of the way and we're tired and we're overwhelmed and we're like, okay, wait, maybe I should take a step back kind of thing. And then personally, just feeling, and I speak from this from a personal standpoint. I've been here, I've done this and working with clients too, just feeling emotionally unavailable for your family. I think it can be so hard as a mom entrepreneur specifically who is working during nap time, who's wanting to work from home, because usually the whole point of us starting our businesses is so we can be there for our families. But then we feel like, well, I'm constantly impatient with them. I'm not eating meals with them. I'm working nights. I'm, skipping my own meals, or I'm neglecting my own movement. I'm not finding joy in the day to day. Those are some really big signs, some small ones like the sleep and things like that, but then also some pretty big signs of burnout in our own health, not just in our business. We can attribute it to our business, thinking my business is burning me out, but more often than not, it can come from our health and our bodies.
And I feel like listeners, I know I can relate to some of those that you threw out. Also, like, I'll share this on the podcast by the time this airs, but I'm pregnant right now. So some of those are just like,
well, yes.
Pregnancies. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so tired. So,
well, yes.
But yes, I'm like that. I think we can relate to a lot of those. And I love what you're saying that like we can do things to get to stop the burnout before it comes. And it's not all related to your business, right? That so often we can feel like my business burned me out, my business is the problem, or my motherhood's the problem, or whatever, my marriage, but it might be that you neglecting your own health is the actual problem. Do you think there are any warning signs that we can like watch for before we get to a place where we are just like, oh my God, I'm totally burned out at this?
Yeah, I think if you're skipping meals, staying up late a lot, staying up late, and then also getting up early. If at any point you're feeling resentful, and when I say that too, I think we want to make sure we're being honest with ourselves, because none of us want to feel resentful as moms or as business owners or as wives. And so being honest about, okay, do I actually feel resentful in my duties as a mom? Or feel like it's taking away from my business? Or do I feel like my business is taking away from my motherhood or being a wife? Those kind of things I feel like are probably the first whispers that we're going to see physically and mentally in burnout. But another one I think is losing the sense of joy, like I mentioned earlier, or purpose in your work. I know for me, I notice when I've neglected my own prayer or my Bible study, because I say, God is the CEO of my business. At the end of the day, I want him to be the CEO of my business. But if I'm not intentionally meeting with him personally and also professionally, then I get into this cycle of overworking with my hands in my business, feeling like I have to go because I'm not relying on the Lord. And so if you feel like you're in that cycle spiritually too, I would say that that's probably another just little red flag in your mind of like, okay, I need to bring this to the Lord and I need to figure out what's going on.
Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. Yeah. And so much of those have to do with like doing too much and like not leaving yourself any margin, which is so easy to do as women because it's like you can just fill up your calendar between work and family and then it's full and you're not leaving room for taking care of yourself. So something I love that you talk about is the importance of small habits and small workouts. And I'm in a season where I do lots of small workouts where it is like, yes, like the power of like 15 minutes, I think is huge, and the power of small habits too. So I'm curious if you can give just some examples of like small but powerful habits that we could all try implementing.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I'm a huge fan of tiny but powerful changes. And I think it was BJ Fogg when I first read his book, Tiny Habits, that I was like, oh, this totally makes sense in health and fitness. And I think there's even like Tiny Habits for weight loss or something, a version of that book. But probably 70% of what I talk about on my own podcast is, and with my clients, is being smart about the choices we're making. Like you can make smart, small choices and create small, tiny habits that can make a really large impact. And so some of these that I share with my own clients are eating 100 plus grams of protein a day. Now that's a habit you have to get into thinking about. It's mental first, but that protein, trying to get in 100 grams at least a day, drinking water with electrolytes. We mostly are all so depleted in our minerals as women because we're just go, 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 you know? And so that's another one. And then micro workouts. So I love that you said you're doing like 15-minute workouts. In the Stronger Collective, which is the workout app that I own, we have a whole program in there called micro workouts. And it is the number one program in our app. Like most of the women in there have gone through the micro workouts or utilize it at some point in time during the month because they are all range from like 1-minute workouts. And yes, 1 minute is enough if you're intentionally building that habit, all the way to that 15-minute mark. And that's the purpose of it, is to start getting you thinking about it, start getting you moving your body 1 minute at a time, building that little time during your day to do that. And then just walking in between meetings. So those, I would say, are the top 4 that I would recommend, like just little habits that it doesn't take too much. You don't have to plan for it. You don't have to really, maybe you have to buy the electrolytes, but you don't really have to do much else for it. The protein, you just add a little double extra protein in your dinners at night and you're, good to go there. But those are some super simple ones.
Yes. Okay. I love those. I'm going to ask you some follow-up questions that I know some people are wondering. So with the 100 grams of protein, what are your favorite protein sources that you think are good for people who are like, wait, I love the carbs more than the protein. Like, what are your favorite like ways to get in some good protein?
Yes. So I love meat. And I will now, if you're a vegan, I'm so sorry if you're listening to this, but I do love meat. And so we are very big about whenever we make dinners, we double our meat in everything. And so even if it's like a 1-portion meal, or if I'm making it to where we can have leftovers, I'm cooking double the meat. So if recipe calls for a pound, I'm doing 2, but I'm keeping everything else the same, except for maybe spices. I might be upping the spices. And so, or tacos, we're doing double the meat in that. So chicken, beef, lean beef, any kind of meat, I would recommend. Now, as far as like fast grab and go, I am an egg eater. I know some people aren't. And so in the mornings when I have my eggs, 2 eggs is 14 grams of protein, fun fact. But if you add in like a 1/4 cup of egg whites, you just made that 24. And so that increases my protein count in the morning exponentially just using egg whites.
Real quick,
Protein. Yeah.
do you buy like a carton of egg whites and that's how you're doing? Okay,
Yes.
just
Yeah.
clarifying that. Yeah, that's smart. And then way
Yeah.
you're
I
not
buy
wasting the
those.
egg yolks.
Yeah. I buy those in bulk, usually at Sam's, or we have a
Okay.
place called BJ's. We're about to get a Costco. Praise the Lord. So I can't wait for that. But we'll buy that in bulk so that we have it all throughout the month. And then yogurt, I mean, Greek yogurt that has high protein, get the high protein Greek yogurt, collagen, protein powders, turkey. I mean, we do lunch meat. Some people are against that, but we try to find the now, obviously you can't have too much, lunch meat right now yourself being pregnant, but, we try to find the non-nitrate kind or, all of those things so that it's a little bit healthy for ourselves and our kids. But frozen Target is my favorite for this. Frozen cut chicken. Already
Okay.
cooked,
Yeah.
just cut up, frozen, break it out for lunch, cook it up on the stove, takes 5 minutes. There we go.
Yeah, that's great. I've done that before with chicken of like, the frozen stuff is very helpful. And a little hack I have for eggs is putting cottage cheese in them.
Yes.
I love cottage cheese eggs.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah, it's and I've gotten my kids to like it now. And when we make meal preps ahead of time, I do like sheet pan eggs. It's eggs and cottage cheese, and then you'd make it into stuff. Yeah, okay, that's great on the protein tips. And then I wanted to ask you too with electrolytes. Do you have an electrolyte brand you recommend or anything?
Yes, so I like LMNT. That's my favorite, and it's actually in the spoiler alert. The 5 health and fitness must-haves for working moms. It's actually in there just because they scientifically, their portions are a little bit different than regular electrolytes. They include magnesium in it as well, which a lot of electrolytes don't. And so I really appreciate that from a mineral and a health and fitness perspective. And I use that before my workouts because I feel like it helps recharge me more than most people might use a pre-workout. I don't use a pre-workout. I'll just use electrolytes instead.
Oh, that's great. And I do the same thing. That's the brand I love as well.
Yes.
And especially during pregnancy, I'm like, I can't use a pre-workout. And that makes me think that I had one because I love the pre-workout I normally use, even though it's not actually pre-workout. It's just like a caffeine-ish vitamin supplement. But yes. Okay. So 100 grams of protein, electrolytes. And then the other 2 were micro workouts and walking between meetings and stuff. Okay. I love those. Okay. So that's like, I want everyone listening just to think practically about like, what of those could you try today? Like you're listening to this morning, be like, okay, I'm going to put more protein tonight. I'm going to go buy Element. We'll link to that in the show notes and like try a micro workout, walk between your meetings. I love all that. Okay. Another question. This is something that we both agreed was like probably our favorite thing to potentially talk about for this interview. But you have said that you believe that the busiest time of your life, like when you're raising kids and building a business, like many listeners are, can be also the best time to get in shape, which feels counterintuitive to what we think, right? Be like, well, I'm having kids, raising kids, I'm in and out of postpartum, and like, that's not the best time to get in shape, and business is busy. So why would you say that is actually the best time for us to focus on this?
Yes, this is my favorite question. And if you've heard me anywhere else before, you will hear me say this probably all the time. I really, truly believe the busiest season of your life is the best season of your life. And not just because I've done it myself, because I walk women through this and I see the change that happens. And as I feel like as business owners, particularly, it can be really easy to fall into, like you were mentioning, the apathy with our health and our fitness. Like, well, like I could lose 10 pounds. I could get stronger. I could work out more, but I don't necessarily need to right now. Or my kids, they really need me more. Or I'm homeschooling. So that's my job. And that's another one of my jobs, another hat that I wear. And so that takes up mental capacity in my brain, or working, or ministry and church and serving and all of the things. And so, like you said, it sounds counterintuitive. Well, like, hey, like right now it's the best time. But because when we are intentional, even in small ways, they end up feeling like huge wins. And that's encouraging. But also, it helps shape and give us the belief and teaches us to prioritize and build rhythms in the busy and the messy. And one thing that I have found through the health and fitness culture through the years is that health and fitness has taught us several habits, and some of them are really great. But the biggest habit that health and fitness has actually taught us is how to pause well. And you may think you don't have any health and fitness habits, but you may have that habit because they teach you to go all in do all the things, get the meal plan, do the workouts 4 to 5 days a week, be eating 120 grams of protein every day, get your electrolytes in, walk 10,000 steps, XYZ, take all these supplements, eat all these meals, want you to do all of the things, right? But then at the end of that, as working women, and then if you're a mom and all of those things, you still have that on top of it. What happens when someone gets sick? Boom, like you have to press pause. And I don't want to make that out to be a bad thing. It's honorable for us as moms to want to press pause because we want to give our best everywhere that we are. That's a tendency that we have, and it's a blessing. The Lord has given us that desire usually to want to do things well and to be able to give our full effort, to give our full heart. And that's exactly what Jesus wants out of us, is to give us, give our full heart in everything that we do. But when we get into this mentality that we can't do it at all if we can't do it well or perfect, that's when we've built that habit of pausing really well. And what health and fitness, the culture hasn't taught us is how to actually live out a healthy lifestyle in the really crazy, busy, messy seasons of life, which is 99% of our time. Wherever you are in your life right now, life is only going to get busier. You're only going to get more work, or you're only going to have more kids, or, even if they're young right now and it's a very physically demanding stage of life, when they move into older elementary, into middle school, that's a very mentally, and then also driving them around to all their sports, very mentally, spiritually, busy time of life. So every phase of life just changes in what the busyness is. And so when we are able to build these small habits, because what happens when we give ourselves the grace and we choose to accept where we are in our lives and choose to believe that just doing protein every day right now is enough, that gives us confidence. And that's what a lot of us are lacking, is just confidence, because we don't know how to do it and make it last long term. We only know how to do it when it's all the things at once. And so being able to take those small things and say, no, you know what? Like, it's okay. The Lord has me in all of these different paths right now, and that's exactly where He's called me to be. And so if I need to take care of my body in order to do all of these things, then 100 grams of protein a day is where I can start. And I'm okay with starting there. So many of us just feel like, well, that's not enough. But it is. And that's where that encouragement, that motivation can come from, truly believing that that's enough right now, and then building on top of that. And so when we can figure out how to ebb and flow that through our busy seasons of life, that means we are the business owners that are actually going to make it to the end of our business and not burn out and not close our podcast doors and not, feel like we're doing all of these things and never giving time to our families. We're changing the game not only for our businesses, but we're changing the game for our own personal lives, our professional lives, our spiritual lives, because now we're accepting where we are. And when we accept where we are, that builds resilience, and we know how to adapt and ebb and flow, and then constantly know that we still have this healthy and fit lifestyle without having to do all of the things.
Yeah. Oh, I love that answer. And yeah, I feel like a lot of what you're saying is like making it a lifestyle versus like this thing you're going to do for a month and then it's over, like this 30-day challenge, and then that's it. You're done. Because it is more sustainable over time when it's more of just like a habit, and it's small habits even that build up, and then you decide you can do more than what it was. And clear stuff too. Like the 100 grams of protein thing is so clear versus just telling yourself, I should eat more protein. Like, it's just like, what does that even mean? How do I even do that? Yes. Okay. I love that. And I know something you tell the women you work with is that health can be a ceiling for our businesses. Like, our businesses will go as much as our health. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. So if there's a lot of analogies we could have for our businesses, right? But if we think of, our health is like the foundation of a building. In the Bible, it talks about the man who built his house upon the rock. Yeah. When we're building our house upon a rock, then it's going to stand. But if everything's shaky, if it's on the sand, everything above it's going to suffer. For entrepreneurs, for working moms, either in home or out of the home, poor health really can limit how much energy and focus we bring into our own businesses. On the flip side, when we're physically strong and well, we're more creative. Like I said, we're more resilient. We're able to show up consistently and feel good showing up consistently in the small things, not in all the things, but in the small things. It's about, that ceiling is about creating a strong base for our business and life so that we can flourish in both personally and professionally. And it's really easy to slip into the mindset of when I build my 6 or 7 figure business, then I'll focus on my health. And I think even it was a few years ago, I can't remember how long ago it was now, but like even Jenna Kutcher like came out with something talking about how that was her story. She wanted to wait, like she just kept pushing it off. She had a lot of health issues. And it wasn't until she like reached whatever point it was that she started working on her health again. And she wishes she would have done that sooner because it would have affected her business in a lot of different ways if she had done that sooner. And so when we are healthy in our body, it has a huge impact on our business. Like our energy levels, like I said, directly impact our productivity, our creativity. Our poor health in and of itself can limit focus and endurance in work and just in life. But having that strong, healthy foundation creates that ripple effect of better decisions, stronger relationships, more sustainable growth, all of those things. And so often we're like chasing after the next certification, business degree, coaching, X, Y, and Z, because we just feel like we need more, a higher ceiling to our business. But what we're not looking is inward at our own bodies and seeing, okay, what does my body need in order to actually increase the capacity and do the things that I need to do for my family, for my business, as a mom or as an entrepreneur, wherever you are in your walk of life. But what needs to happen in my body in order for me to feel purposed and feel that energy and that focus in business and in life again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that is such a common story of people getting to a certain level in their business and being like, wait, I neglected my health. Or maybe sometimes it's like their family life or their faith life or their marriage. But health is a really common one you see people talk about. And it is like, so you made a lot of money, but you like lost this, lost your health. Like, is it really worth it? Or, missed out on things in your marriage or personal growth things even. Yeah. And I think it is easy to just get distracted, like one track mind of like business is it like I got to put all the energy into this. Anytime you have childcare, got to work on that. You got to like be able to divide and make time for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So something you talk about, and I remember you actually talked about this when you interviewed me on your podcast, a year ago now.
Mm-hmm.
But you talk about something you call rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
So how can listeners identify rhythms for the health and fitness journeys in their own life?
Yeah. So I would say the first step is acknowledging your current season of life and understanding that your health doesn't have to look like somebody else's. And we know that. We really do. In our minds, we know, and we know comparison is a problem. But typically when we're going for our health and our fitness, we're starting it with where we already want to be rather than where we are right now. And I think so many of us have a hard time actually acknowledging where we are or how physically yucky we feel, that it's really hard to say it out loud. Like, wow, yeah, I feel yucky. And I need to make a change to either yourself or your spouse or a close friend. It can be hard because it feels like a failure on us, on our part, if we're not doing everything really well. And so acknowledging it really is the first step in figuring out those rhythms. And so it's really it's a 4-step process that I work through my clients with. And I'll explain the rhythms itself. There's something called the rhythm dials that I do with my clients and my community. But the first one is acknowledge. So you're asking, what does my day-to-day actually look like? Where am I right now? Like if you're a time blocker, like what pocket of time can I block this in? Or, what free time do I have? Is it 10 minutes a day? Is it 5 minutes? Mind-wise, where am I? Spiritually, where am I? Stress, sleep, all of those things, where am I? From there, we commit. So we acknowledge and now we commit. So we commit to just work on one area and one small thing at a time. And this could be either be your movement, your nutrition, either your sleep or your stress. And so this is where for me, the rhythm dials come in. So what I work on with my clients is basically if you think of this big circle, it's circular. On a scale of 1 to 10, we have numbers across this circle. 1 would be the very least I could do every single day for my health and my fitness. So that would be what we call a minimum. And then at the 10 would be like, if I am in nirvana. Like I am doing all the things. I don't have kids in my house. We're making my 6 and 7 figures. We're doing all the things and I can afford to have a personal chef, whatever. That's our 10. Nobody really lives at a 10 and we're not necessarily meant to, but we have it there just to see like, hey, we could move towards this eventually. But so we have this 1 to 10 scale there. We'll just take movement as an example here. So on this scale of 1 to 10, we look at it and we say, okay, where's that pocket of time? What's the very least you could do for your movement? Often for my clients, it's go for a walk. And so that's our 1 is like, okay, go for a 10-minute walk daily or every other day, wherever they're at. We try to meet them where they're at. And that's, again, acknowledging, meet yourself where you are and be okay with it and celebrate that too. Like the fact that you're being honest with yourself is a really good thing. And so that's our 1. And then we move, okay, what would be a step above that 1? Okay, 10 minutes a day would be your 1. Maybe 15 minutes a day would be your 2. Okay, when that feels good, 3, moving up to a 3, maybe it's 2 strength training workouts a week and then 3 walks a week. And so we move this dial to where we get to the point of like, okay, where would I actually want to be? I would want to be at 4, most of them, 4 to 5 days a week, working out, 10,000 steps a day, just moving, having fun, hiking, trails, all of those things, right? And so we have this dial. And now there are 2 ways they can use it. They can use it as a stepping stone of, okay, let's start at a 1, which is our minimum, and let's just keep doing that till it feels comfortable. And then let's move to that 2. Or some of them, when we're doing this call, we're like, hey, where do you feel like you are right now? They are at a 4 to 5. So they're like in the middle. So we're starting there with them. But what they do is when they go to evaluate, acknowledge week to week, month to month, what season of life they're in, they're like, wow, this is a really busy week. I cannot get my 3 30-minute workouts in this week. I cannot get 5 walks in this week. Let me dial this back down to a 2 and just focus on getting my 15-minute walks in a day. And so it gives you a visual of seeing, hey, like, we literally ebb and flow through seasons and balance. I'm very different than a lot of people out there. I don't believe we need balance in our health and our fitness or in all the things, because if we had balance, then is the Lord in control of what we're doing, or are we taking control, creating that balance? And so I really believe it's rhythms that we go through, seasons that we go through. And so we're ebbing and flowing through these dials, dialing it up when we're like, okay, life is really good. My kids are all healthy. I can do 4 days a week, dialing it back down. But we see this visual of, I'm still working towards my goals and I'm still living this healthy and fit lifestyle. I'm not just pressing pause and saying, nope, can't do it. I'm not going to do it. It's too much. We're seeing, okay, no, like a 10-minute walk every day is good enough. And that's great. And I'm going to live in that right now. So we acknowledge, we commit, we do the rhythm dials, then we tweak. So we go through and, we figure out what existing routines you already have. While your coffee's making, can you drink your 8 ounces of water every day? So we figure out how we can, put things in, habit stack, habit pair, that kind of thing. And then the 4th thing is maintain and then just adjust. And so that's how we work through it with my clients who are all business owners in some capacity, but we go through those 4 steps to create those rhythm dials so that they can still see I'm moving towards my goals no matter what, if I'm dialing it back down. And so it's just like nutrition, for example, usually the 1 on their nutrition dial would be taking their supplements every day. Like instead of even the 100 grams of protein, that might be a 4 for them. And so if they're having a busy week or they're sick, they're not going to feel like cooking all that protein. Okay, I can just take my supplements every single day. There's my easy button. I'm good to go. And so we walk that through movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress.
Okay, I was going to ask what the dials would be. So those are the dials that we would then be saying we're 1 to 10 on.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so movement, what was it? Movement, nutrition, stress, and sleep.
Yep.
So how would we do that for stress, would you say? Like what would be the different levels maybe?
Yeah. So with stress, 1 to 10. If they're a believer, usually my clients are. So somewhere in there, there's getting in the word. Usually, I'm not going to lie, usually that's a 2 or 3 for most people. Getting in the word, like at least 5 days a week is the goal. Typically that's around a 3. But number 1 would be, okay, can you take a hot shower every day? for at least 10 minutes, to just unwind? Or can you use an acupressure mat? Or, what would this, so stress, a lot of it comes to spiritual, and with stress, are you moving your body? So there can be, depending on the person, depending on where they are in life, there's movement aspects, there's nutrition aspects to it, but there's spiritual, mostly spiritual aspects in the stress category, because when we're highly stressed, when we're highly worried, we need to be giving that over to the Lord. What does that look like? How does that look like for you? Where is that at on the dial? But like I said, taking warm showers, taking cold showers at night, that's a way to.
Yeah.
Warm shower in the morning, cold shower at night. Are you walking? Are you moving? Are you getting in the word? Are you memorizing scripture? Journaling is usually a big one. Gratitude, having a gratitude journal at the end of the night. So those are a lot of the, just kind of the similar ones throughout, but it does really vary.
Yeah. Well, I love how the concept of it being like 4 categories, and it could be, and tell me what you think about this, but like, let's say one has to be low because you're acknowledging your season of life. For example, maybe your sleep is bad because your children are waking you up all night and you have a newborn.
Right.
It's like, well, there's only so much you can do about that, because you want to be the kind of mother that is helping your child sleep. You can do things like split it with your spouse and stuff like that. But it's like, that is what it is. So then would you be like, okay, I'm fine that the sleep is just like missing, I'm going to try a nap, and then you dial up another one? Or would you be like, I'm just letting, what would you kind of do in that situation?
Yeah. So, well, this is good for you because you're going into this season, but we'd acknowledge it. Like, okay, you're not sleeping in the middle of the night. You're going and getting your kids up, or maybe your kids waking up at 5 a.m. because you're trying to get up at 5 a.m. And isn't that how it happens? We wake up early and they decide to wake up early on our one day that we get up early. And so, we acknowledge it and we say, okay, you're waking up in the middle of the night. What can we do to help your sleep be the best that it can be in those time frames? And so, like, do you have blackout curtains? Do you have, and maybe that's your one is like, use a sound machine to help me sleep and block out extra noise if my baby's cooing in the middle of the night, but not actually needing me. And so, like, how can we do that? Use a sound machine. A 2 could be use my blackout curtains if I'm waking up with the sunlight or something, or if there's light coming in. And so it's really just in those kind of seasons, there's only so much you can do for sleep, but take a magnesium supplement might be in there, like take magnesium at night to help get you really well rested. Or like I said, with the stress, use an acupressure mat at night to kind of wind down so you can get to sleep quicker. When you wake up in the middle of the night with your baby, how can we get you back to sleep quickly without your mind like totally derailing? Or how can we keep you awake enough in that nursing session so you're not falling asleep during the nursing session, but then able to go back to bed and go back to sleep? It's asking those questions and then finding ways that we can help them wind down, whether that's through scripture, saying it in their brain, or, whatever it may be in those moments too. And then you would adapt the dial once your baby's sleeping through the night. Now you don't have to worry about, getting back to sleep so quickly in the middle of the night. And then also having your spouse help as well is huge. Having spousal help.
Yeah, I love that. So to recap the steps, it was acknowledge your season of life and what it actually data is like, commit to work on one thing at a time, then tweak, and then last step is maintain and adjust, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I love that. And I feel like that's a good system, and I love the dials. So question for you. When it comes to self-care, and by self-care, I mean even like working out, that is like a form of self-care, even though in some ways we can say it's not, but that is. But when it comes to self-care, what mindset changes do you think women need to make in order to stop viewing self-care as selfish or secondary, or like, wait, like you were saying earlier, like my kids need me, my business needs me, like I don't have time to work out in this season. I don't have time to like eat a healthy meal. What kind of mindset changes do we need to shift if we're in that headspace?
Yeah. So the very first thing that I talk about is turn your health and your fitness from a have to a get to. Like, how can we make, I have to, so many of us have negative associations with our health and our fitness because we've been all in and we have to do all the things, right? And even in my recent market research, one of the most common things through all of the women that I talked to was they feel like they know what to do, but they just don't want to have to do it all again. And because they're just tired, like thinking about it. It's like, I don't want to have to deal with the fuss. I want to just be able to get where I want to go, do it. I mean, that's also society right now too, right? And it's the same for our businesses. We like, how can I, just skip to the good part in my business and not have to do all of the hard things in between? And so we can often feel, so that mindset first, that mindset shift, like, how can I make this a get to instead of a have to? We have to create positive associations with working out and with healthy eating that are simple and doable, like easy wins, that dopamine hit, like, ooh, I made extra protein, like, yay, like that's a win. But I think often we can also feel guilty, like you were saying, prioritizing ourselves, or we don't want to mess with it. Like I was saying, we don't want to feel like a failure and try to do all the things to be left with no results at the end of the day. But caring for our body, and we know this, it isn't selfish, nor is it something that has to be totally overwhelming, but it's that viewpoint, that mentality. When we take care of our body, we're better equipped to pour into our families, our clients, our calling. And I mean, as a simple illustration, you think of, when you're in an airplane and something happens, turbulence, all the air masks come down. They tell you to put your own mask on first because you can't help anybody else if you are incapacitated. And it's the same in our businesses, in our homes. We have to take the time, even though it's sacrificing, it is sacrificing time away from our families or ministry or business to do it. But that sacrifice is a good thing, because what is it that carries us to do all of these things that we want to do and feel like is our purpose in life and that we're called to do? Our body is. And I think so often, and I just want to make this point real quick, Elizabeth, so often in culture, it's been a culture for years, decades, I would even say in the Christian realm, particularly, that we use the term steward your body, But in scripture, when it talks about stewarding, it talks about stewarding your time, your talents, and your treasures. And your body is a part of you. And so when we have that mentality that we're stewarding our body for the glory of the Lord, scripture, your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, 1 Corinthians 6:19, the big verse we all use about taking care of our bodies. So having that mentality of, I need to steward my body well, it's creating this mindset that your body is outside of you, that you have to steward something outside of yourself, like you steward your time, or you steward your finances, or you steward your gifts and those kind of things. But the reality is, and I'm going to use a phrase here, we are embodied beings. Like the Lord created us as a body, and our soul, our spirit is inside of that. And so it is part of us. Our body is us. And so when we keep saying, I need to steward it, we're creating that mindset that it's outside of us. And so we have to bring that back in, that, okay, I get to do this because it's me. Like it is me that I am working on. It is me that the Holy Spirit has given me this body to be purposed in my home with my kids, in my business, and leading out in all of these different ways, in my ministry with my husband, or serving alongside wherever in the community, or my neighbors, all of these things. And so it's that mindset shift of, while yes, we can sometimes feel guilty prioritizing it, but when we do two things, when we change that mindset of, okay, our body is not outside of ourselves, we aren't just stewarding it, it is us, that changes the perspective immediately. And then second thing, when we create positive associations from, okay, I have to do this, to a get to, then it becomes a joyful thing. And then at that point, it can also become an act of worship to the Lord, because we're treating our body well to be able to live out the calling that He has for us. And that's what, I'm sure all of the women listening, and you yourself, Elizabeth, we all feel like we have callings in our lives and that we're purposed to do something. And I believe that we should live them out. But if we aren't giving our body the attention it needs, then one day we physically aren't going to be able to live that out. And that's what we want to avoid now, when we're in the crazy, busy, messy, and figure out how to make this ebb and flow so that we can make this lifestyle and continue to do and be who the Lord has called us to be.
Yeah, I love that distinction, because I do think it's easy to feel disconnected from your body,
Yes.
especially when you're in a season where your body goes through a lot of changes. It can feel, for whatever reason, it can feel like easier to feel disconnected. And like you said, more like this is something outside of me that I'm sure, but yeah, it is you. And something I think about a lot that is motivating to me is like, training and taking care of myself for what I want to be able to do. And even just
Yeah.
like simple ways, like, do you want to be able to like carry your kids up the stairs? Do you want to be able to play with them? Do you want to be able to, pick up 1,000 magnetiles and somehow still have energy after that? Like little things like that, even that are just in our day-to-day life, and like feeling like I'm making sure I'm like able to do that stuff and doing things too as you age with your kids and future grandkids and things like that has been a motivator to me. That's awesome. And I feel like I could replay your tips there for more motivation.
Well, and I feel like I have a sweet perspective on that too, because I have in-person classes. And while it's hard sometimes to think like, okay, who I want to be when I'm 60, right? Like I want to be running around with my grandkids. I want to be able to still go up and down stairs. Like while that may be there and pressing, it really is like when we feel like we can pick up the magnetiles and be okay, like without fitness, that's that apathy that we can fall into of like, well, I'm okay. And that, like you were saying, changing that perspective, changing that shift of like thinking of future. But with my in-person classes, it's multi-generational. So there are women who, I think the oldest woman in one of the classes is 94. Wow. And then there are women as young as I've had teenagers come. And so it's this huge conglomerate, and it's so sweet because you get to see, especially with our older generation that are there. A couple weeks ago, one of the ladies was giving a kind of a testimony to exercising and fitness. She was the 94-year-old, and she was going into the hospital to see her son who was in the hospital. And she went up and there was a curb there and she didn't see the curb. And so she tripped, and typically she would have fallen. And at 94, when you fall, you break something, and probably really badly. And you probably never recover from that. But she didn't. And she was like, praise the Lord that I started this, but I wish I would have done it sooner. And I wish when I was in my 20s and 30s, I would have taken the chance to strength train and do what I needed to do then, because then I wouldn't be struggling the way I am now. And I think sometimes it's hearing people's testimony of that too, that really helps it set in our minds of like, okay, no, this is why I'm doing this for when I'm 60, but not only when I'm 60, when I'm 90, like I want to be around for my great grandkids and to be able to see generations in my family, like do what the Lord has called them to do. Like what a sweet place to be. But I think it can be so hard to think that far in the future and see that without the testimony and seeing that happen in older women as well.
Yeah. That's so motivating to hear her story. Yeah.
Yeah. It was so sweet. So sweet.
Yeah, that is. Okay. I have a few like rapid-ish fire questions for you to close out, but you don't have to answer these super fast. But the first one, what are some common misconceptions about fitness and wellness that you think hold women back?
I think the first one is just, I have to do all the things or spend an hour at the gym every day or do cardio all the time. That's probably 3. I think that's 3 right there.
Yeah.
So I have to do all the things. I have to spend an hour at the gym every day, or I have to do cardio all the time. Yeah. Cardio, if you're listening, please stop. Like, I love cardio. We need it. But if that's all you're doing, that's not helpful long term. Yeah. Do some strength training, lift some weights. So that's how I would combat that. But those would probably be top 3. It's not expensive, or people will use the excuse, well, I can't do it at home. I need a community. I need to go to a class. But then that's a time commitment. And that's $149 a month or $249 a month. So then that's a financial commitment. You can do it at home. It's a priority thing and a motivation thing that if you do the small things, like we talked about, those dials, you can do it at home until you get to a space where you can financially afford it, until you can get to a place where you find a community that's going to be effective for you and your goals. And then I think we already talked about this one, but just thinking that it's selfish to prioritize it. And those would probably be the super rapid, quick fire misconceptions that I address often.
Yeah. And I feel like the cardio one is a big one too, that like you don't, because a lot of women like for me, gosh, I mean, for a few years now, I haven't done cardio as like a thing that I'm going to the gym to physically do. I end up doing cardio through like going on walks outside and things like that. And like strength training can really get your heart rate up too, which is something I feel like not a lot of people think about. So like you can actually be getting cardiovascular activity through strength training and then walk and stuff, which is for a lot of women as you get older, more enjoyable than like running and things like that. At least it's for me. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, what's one practical strategy a busy woman listening could use today to improve her energy and avoid burnout?
Yes. So I don't know that I can pick just one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because it goes back to our rhythms. You have to figure out what works for you. And so I think even what I mentioned earlier of the increase your protein, 100 grams a day, focus on that. Half your body weight in ounces a day of water, but mix in those electrolytes with that. And then walking steps. And then I would say very specifically, progressively overloading strength training workouts. And that means that's when you're moving your body. You're doing a certain set of workouts one week. And then the next week, you're doing the same set of workouts that week, even if they're the 10-minute workouts, those micro workouts that we talked about earlier. You're doing the same ones, but you're either trying to go up in weight or you're trying to go up in reps. And so that is what builds that lean muscle mass that we're all wanting, is those progressively overloaded workouts. And that can be helpful even at those 10-minute micro workouts, 15-minute workouts, just that adding in weights in the same exercises over and over for at least 4 weeks. So protein, adding in more protein, 100 grams a day, have your body weight in ounces of water, extra steps, progressively overloaded workouts. So one of those, whichever one would fit today, like if you can go for a walk today with your kids, boom, you got it. Like go take a walk. We take a walk. Our kids, they know it now. Every time my son gets up from his first nap and his second nap, we always go for a walk. Like we're just going to go for a walk. This is our thing. We've made that a habit in our life. And so when that becomes a habit, then I can move on to, okay, when can I fit my strength training workout in? And I do want to say, I didn't mention this earlier. When it comes to workouts, I will say a misconception with that is we think we have to do the workouts either before our kids get up or when they're not around, because it's going to take, 3 times as long, and it will. But letting them see you do it is going to be very helpful long term. And one thing that I started doing with my oldest when he was a baby was 1 day a week, and this could be a strategy that you use, 1 day a week doing a workout in front of him and training him. Mommy is doing my workout right now. I cannot play. And then redirecting. And now, my third is just going to fall in line. He'll be fine. But now with 3 kids, on Wednesdays, I still do that. Mommy's going to do a workout today while we're all awake. And I'm going to do it in the garage. You guys are going to see me. You guys can play outside. You can come and join in with me. And it doesn't take me an hour anymore. My 30-minute workout takes maybe 35 depending on the baby. Yeah. But that training and letting them see and just being intentional, like this is 5 years in the making. Like that's okay if it takes that long. Like we don't have to rush it. It didn't take that long for my oldest to figure this out, but just being intentional and staying consistent in those little things over and over can make a big difference.
Yeah, I love that tip. That's seriously something I think no one talks about, that like, yes, you can work out with your kids around, especially as they get older. It is like things they might want to, try doing a push-up with you and things like that is like fun for kids. But yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I literally last week was thinking about how I wish I had started doing that when I just had 1 kid, because it's easier. But now on days when it's just me and my baby Ethan, I usually do my workout while he's awake. And at first I was like, nope, Elizabeth, he has 2 naps. You got to do it during one of those naps. And now I'm like, nope, I'm actually going to just try to always wait. He's a baby. He can sit and play. And it does take long. You're right. You do pauses. And I have had a few times where I end up deciding I have to stop and finish it later. So you do half of it, you do half of it later. Then you get to use that nap time for something else, is kind of another perspective I've had. But yeah, I wish that's something I'd started doing sooner. And you just gave me some motivation to try it with both of them. So I love that.
Yeah. And just 1 day a week. That's what I started with, because trying to do it for every single workout can feel overwhelming and frustrating because you're like, what is even the point? But even just starting small, like we've talked about this whole episode, with just 1 day a week, maybe if that's too much, 1 day a week for, every week, maybe do every other week or something, to just be intentional, be consistent, correct them during the workout. We do that with every other area of motherhood, right? Yeah. Like doing dishes or, trying to make sure my baby's not getting in the dishwasher while I'm trying to unload it. And so we can do it with health and fitness too. It's just that intentional redirecting and teaching over the course of time. And then one day you'll get to the point where, wow, I can do a workout. And then they do it with you. And it's so fun. Like my 2 older ones, we're doing a 12 days of fitness challenge right now. And my 2 older ones have been doing it with me every day. And it's so sweet and so fun. They don't even know what they're doing, but they think it's fun. And I think it's fun to do it with them.
Yeah, you're right. It is good for like similar how, you hear it said that like it's good for your kids to see you reading your Bible versus it being something where like, all right, as soon as they're awake, I'm putting all that away. And like that was something I did when they were maybe sleeping in longer than you. Never happens for me, but that concept could be nice. But yeah, same way with exercise. Like it's good to like show them that this is something you can do that they might want to try as well. Love that.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, Shaela, this has been so helpful. Will you tell everyone about that freebie that you have for them and just other ways to connect with you as well?
Yes. So I have a freebie. It is called 5 Health and Fitness Must-Haves for Working Moms. And it basically has everything like any of my pro tips that are just easy buttons for health and fitness in there. It's 5 of them.
Awesome.
So if you're trying to pick one thing to do, this freebie is going to have it in there for you, and you can just pick that one. But they can find me on Instagram at SDFitwell. I am most active through my podcast, though, Simple Fitness Habits. That's where my community is. And I tell everyone this, but I'm the most personal trainer out there. So if they want to reach out or have questions, please message me on Instagram. I really do answer them all, and or email. I love answering them. I respond as quickly as I can with 3 kids, but I'm on there. And I thank you so much for letting me be on the podcast.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
This was awesome. Yeah. And I'll put that link to your freebie for everyone in the show notes. And then also, yes, your podcast is awesome. I've enjoyed listening to it. I got to be a guest on it some episodes ago, and then we can link to that as well. But yeah, this was awesome. Thank you, Shaela.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, thank you for listening to the podcast, friend. I so appreciate you being here. That just flew by, didn't it? If you want more Breakthrough Brand, then you have to join my free Facebook community for podcast listeners, where you can connect with like-minded business owners and go deeper on what you learn on this podcast. Go to elizabethmccravy.com/Facebook to request to join the free group. I cannot wait to connect with you there. Again, that's elizabethmccravy.com/Facebook to access the group. Also, if you love this episode, leaving a rating and review for the show wherever you're listening, or sharing this episode with a friend is a great way to support this podcast. I appreciate it so much. Again, thank you for listening, and I'll be back next week with another episode.